Hello and welcome once again to Straight Bat, my weekly video blog where, as the title suggests, I comment with a straight bat. COVID-19 is not the only virus that's stalking the nation at the moment. Hate, my friends, is in the air, with social media acting as a super spreader of sorts. Last week, on the death of the prominent social activist Swami Agnivesh, a former IPS officer from the Telangana cadre, N. Nageshwar Rao, tweeted, "Good riddance. You were an anti-Hindu donning saffron clothes. You did enormous damage to Hinduism. I am ashamed that you were born a Telugu Brahmin. My grievance against Yamaraj is why did he wait for so long?" This is what Nageshwar Rao tweeted. After protests from several Twitter users, the social media site pulled down the offensive tweet. Now, Nageshwar Rao is no ordinary police officer. In 2018, he was appointed acting director of the Central Bureau of Investigation. He was also Director General Fire Services and Home Guards, and he finally retired in July this year. That an officer holding such a high post should make such a spiteful remark is, to my mind, a sign of the times. Even those who swear allegiance to the Constitution, those who are expected and empowered to even-handedly maintain law and order, are now wearing the ideology of hate on their uniform, to the point of wishing death on someone like Swami Agnivesh. Worse still, Rao is unrepentant and has even defended his hate speech. The tweet brought back memories in a way of a similar tweet when journalist activist Gauri Lankesh was shot dead in 2017. Then a Surat-based businessman, Nikhil Dadich, had tweeted, "A bitch died a dog's death and now all the puppies are wailing in the same tune." It was an awful, obnoxious remark that seemed to celebrate the tragic assassination of Lankesh. Frankly, it may have even passed unnoticed in this mad social media world, but for an inconvenient truth. Dadich was followed by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi's handle. Once again, Dadich was not apologetic. Instead, he said he was proud to be followed by Prime Minister Modi on Twitter. Rao and Dadich are not alone. There are thousands of anonymous Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp groups out there that are designed to spread extreme animosity between individuals and communities. Under the guise of being open source platforms, this social media universe has created, in a sense, its own code of conduct, where the lines between free speech and hate speech lie totally blurred. These are, as an outstanding Netflix documentary, The Social Dilemma, has put it, the digital Frankensteins of our times. Amoral beasts that are running amok in a carnivorous social media jungle where the rules are being subverted to actively promote hatred and division. This big tech social media hate machine is transitioning seamlessly into the news environment. Thus, to blame social media alone for stoking the flames of disharmony would be to run away from the nature of the virus. Hate is an infection that is contagious when it is normalized, and that is exactly what is happening in recent years. The anti-minority dog whistles have become much more frequent, to the point where their expression almost seems routine. The Indian Muslim as anti-national is a narrative that has deliberately and repeatedly been pushed by a section of the power elite to acquire a potency of its own. When a rabble-rousing union minister, for example, screams before a crowd, "Desh ke gaddaro ko," and then the crowd chants back, "Goli maro salo ko," there is little attempt made to rein in the minister. or indeed when anti-citizenship Amendment Act protesters are identified by the clothes that they wear, or when illegal migrants are described as termites, or when tabligis are targeted as corona carriers. There is a brazen attempt somewhere to somehow or the other stoke religious prejudice. It is almost as if this hyper-polarized environment is meant to act as a spur for incendiary communal rhetoric. Just how far this normalization of the narrative of hate and bigotry has travelled is best exemplified by the recent Sudarshan TV case, involving a program done by the channel to purportedly investigate a Muslim conspiracy to take over the civil services with a hate-mongering slogan titled UPSC Jihad, put out as a promotional video. Rather than acting ab initio against such a program, the Information and Broadcasting Ministry allows the telecast of the first set of programs on the argument that they do not believe in pre-censoring. This despite the fact that the INB programming code clearly allows the ministry to prohibit any program that is likely to promote ill will between communities. Any attack on religions or communities or visuals or words contemptuous of religious groups or that which promote communal attitudes can be banned. But the INB ministry dithers, and it requires first the Delhi High Court and then the Supreme Court to step in and stop the further broadcast of this program on Sudarshan TV. Ironically, the INB ministry told the court that there are enough existing regulatory mechanisms to monitor print and electronic media, that if at all you want to regulate, please regulate digital media. A ministry which has failed to exercise its jurisdiction in regulating a case of a blatant violation by a TV channel now tells the court that the real problem is outside in this unchained, chaotic digital world. It makes you wonder, is the INB ministry simply itching to clamp down on maybe an anti-government website tomorrow? Or maybe the INB ministry just views Sudarshan TV with a more benevolent gaze, since the channel is widely perceived to be in sync with the ruling party's ideology. Sudarshan TV in a way may espouse an in-your-face militant Hindutva, unapologetic about it. But what of those mainstream channels which quietly push a daily drip of communal poison and fake news with the sole objective of demonizing a community? Take for example the horrific lynching a few months ago of two sadhus in Palghar in Maharashtra. Without even attempting to uncover the reality on the ground, some TV channels immediately pitched it as a Hindu-Muslim conflict, lined up foul-mouthed extremists to engage in the kind of monstrous slugfest that passes off as primetime debate in this country today. Now, when it turns out that the claims of the communal angle were completely false, and all those arrested are local tribals who mistook the sadhus for kidnappers based on a WhatsApp rumor, will any news channel publish an apology for having consciously misled their viewers by fabricating news only to garner television rating points or TRPs? To my mind, these people are news traffickers, and such news traffickers who seek to profit from hate must be acted upon swiftly. Only then, my friends, can we find a vaccine to the virus that threatens to divide us. I started this video blog with a story of a police officer. Let me end with a cop too. For more than a year now, I have been receiving WhatsApp messages from a senior IPS officer echoing the same strident Islamophobia which is so prevalent today. This officer was once in charge of a city with a large Muslim population. Is it any surprise then that law enforcers are often caught on the wrong side of the law, especially when it comes to communal riots. Think about it. That's it on the Straight Bat. Thanks for watching.